Hello, everyone. Thanks for dropping in. This is Healing Body, Mind, and Soul, and I'm your host, Ariel Asher. Today, I have the honor and good privilege to be here with my newfound friend, Sheryl Mays. Now, I saw Sheryl speak at the Speaker Talent Search recently, which I adjudicated, and she did a marvelous job. She piqued my interest, and I knew I just had to grab her, scoop her up. She is a woman on fire. She has got a mission and a half, I'd say, by her bio. She's got a mission and a half, not just a mission, but more than a mission. And I know you're going to want to lean in and hear what she has to say today. Sheryl, thanks for taking time out of your schedule to be on with us today.
Absolutely. I'm excited. I am excited to have this conversation because I know it's going to be amazing. It's going to transform some individuals. It's going to give them some ideas on thought, some thought-provoking ideas, and just, the ability to ask some more questions.
Now, Sheryl, you do a lot of, I know that you're a coach, you're an author. What do you think is the number one thing that people come to you with when they're perplexed or when they're in a stuck place?
It's just that I'm stuck. Right?
I'm stuck. Okay, that's a good enough one, right? All right, let's start there.
Yeah.
How do people know when they're stuck? How does that present in their lives, do you think, Sheryl?
When there's something that you want to accomplish, you have a dream, you have a vision, there's something that's on your heart and you feel as though you're not fulfilling your purpose, or you haven't even designated what your purpose is, right? That's that existential question. Why am I here?
Yes.
Some people rest in that and never try to develop it any more than the question itself. And then you have others that say, you know what? I know I'm meant to do more. I just need somebody to help me to serve as a guide, that provides insight, that uses what I like to call that third lens, that lens from the outside looking in, where you're asking questions that are pivotal to a person's growth, that allows them to be able to look at techniques and strategies that they might not have even considered on their own. Because sometimes, you're a little too close to your situation, or you're too close to your problem, and you're going, I've exhausted everything that I know. And that's when you're stuck.
And it's a glorious place to be, right? When you have awareness of it, because that's when you can make the transformation. Right. That's when the magic can start to happen, and possibility is just right around the corner. But you have to get to the place where you have that moment of awareness in that stuck space, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Exactly. And that's that self-awareness aspect that sometimes people are a little afraid, because you don't know what you're going to find out. So you're like, maybe I'll leave that alone. Maybe we won't dwell on that. Maybe we won't dive into that. But that's that area where you have the most growth. That's the area where you have, I call it that champion effect, right? That's the area when you truly recognize that there's something in you that is so huge, and it needs to get out. It needs to manifest. It needs to surface. And for some reason or another, it's been repressed. It's been, silenced. And so you're at a point where you're like, I want this champion to rise so that I can wake up in the morning feeling good about my day. And it hasn't even happened yet. The day hasn't even happened yet, but I'm going to live the day with expectations. Right? I'm going to expect it to be an amazing day. And when you think about that mindset, Ariel, what happens is you're now starting to manifest opportunities. People start coming to you. And I call it God math. When, for us, it's 1 + 1 = 2. And you're like, yeah, I know exactly how that happened. I did this. And so that was my result. But when you use a higher being math, and that's whoever your higher being is.
Yeah.
1 + 1 = 10, and you're baffled because you're like, how did that happen?
How did that quantum leap how did that quantum leap or that perspective shift, that one little shift of the trajectory that opens up like a whole new universe for somebody?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have no idea, except now you're reaping the rewards of this abundance, and you're still going, okay, I don't know how it happened, but you can either stay there in that, let me figure out how, or you can go, okay, it's happened, I'm in it, so let me roll with this, right?
Right. Right. So how do you think that a person can tap into that powder keg, that super champion of themselves, the energy of that part of themselves, that expectancy and that positivity, and not get dragged down by the repression, depression, suppression, all the pressions?
So I would say two things. Number one is we have to ask a question that a majority of us have never asked ourselves. And that's, what do you want? Right? What do you want? And having a definitive answer. Because when you think about it, the last time that we were able to display what we wanted, we were infants, right? When we wanted something, we knew how to get it. We knew how to cry, right? We know that we were going to get somebody's attention. They're going to see if we need food. They're going to see if we need our diaper change. They're going to hold us. They're going to find out what I want. And then as we grew up, we were told, right? You're going to do this. You're going to go to this school. You're going to wear this. You're going to come home at this time. You're going to hang out with these people. You're not going to hang out with these people. You're going to go to school where I went to school. And so when it comes time for you to go, well, what is it that I do want? This might be the first time you have actually asked yourself that question, because you were always told, right? We get a job, we get a home, we have a family. That's what you're told to do, because that's the way it works. Right? But when you actually have the ability to sit down and go, what do I want? What is it that will make me feel really good about who I am as a person, about how I'm contributing to society, and about how I'm helping others? What is it that allows me to be able to do that? So that's the first question. And then the second question is right here behind me. You have to silence the chatter.
I love that.
You have
tell us about the chatter monsters. For those of us who are listening only on audio, she's got a great signage behind her that says "Silencing the Chatter Monsters," and it's got this great woman in a little bit of a state, I guess, trying to silence those monsters. Talk to us about that a little bit, Sheryl.
This is my book. I published this book in 2019, and it's called "Silencing the Chatter Monsters: Move Beyond Your Fear." And it's about a traveler that literally has this dream. She's got a vision. She wants to do something that she's never done before in life, and it's to start her own business. But she's hearing all of this chatter. She's hearing people going, "Who do you think you are?"
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Nobody in your family has ever done anything. You're just daydreaming. You talk about it all the time. You're never doing anything about it. Do what you've been doing. Go to your job every day and just live status quo. And so she embarks on this journey, and she starts to take a walk. And as she's taking this mindfulness walk, where she's just in the moment, and she's just feeling all of these things, and she starts to meet these different individuals. And they come to her at a place where she doesn't expect it. But when they have a conversation, they realize, I was meant to meet you today to tell you something. And then as she started meeting the second, third, and fourth one, then she goes, I think you have a message for me. And the great thing about these stories is that they are stories of real people. They are entrepreneurs that have weathered the storms. They've done that night where you're curled up in a ball going, why did I leave my 9 to 5? I had benefits, I had a paycheck every 2 weeks. And here I am now in this ball on the floor going, oh my God, what did I do?
What did I do?
Right? But they continued on. They continued on. And it's through other people's stories of adversity, through other people's stories of conquering, that we realize we can.
I love
And
it.
realize it's possible, and that the universe rewards action. Nothing happens if nothing happens.
I love this. Like, I love the way that you frame this. It's almost like the archetypal journey of the soul, and it's the same thing as the entrepreneur's journey. I love that. It's really true. It's really true. I love that. I Well, that sounds fascinating. I hope that everybody is that. Tell us where that's available, please. Your book.
Absolutely.
Your book.
It's available on Amazon. It's available on
Great.
Amazon. It's available at Barnes and Noble.
Great.
And it's available on dreamspirebooks.com.
All right. So everybody make sure to put that on your list, because that just sounds wonderful, Sheryl. I love the way that you framed it up. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz, and along the yellow brick road she meets.
Exactly.
And that's how I think that really, when you embrace your purpose and are living your sort of entrepreneurial life, passion and purpose out loud like that, like you obviously are, I think that those magical moments, that synergy, that magic, really happens, you know. But you have to be brave enough, as you say, to get rid of the things that are the obstacles, or the things that are not supporting that 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 sort of divine reality, or that higher self, or that, you know, best self, I guess is what is the phrase that a lot of people call it. Now, I know, because I heard you speak a little bit, and we spoke a little bit before we got on the recording here today, but I told you that I'm very interested in the piece of your personal story where you talk about narcissist abuse and recovering from narcissist abuse, because we've been talking so much for the past year about all kinds of mental health stuff. And really, this is a really great segue to that sort of aha moment, that breakaway moment of when you can be the hero in your own story. Can you please tell us a little bit about your personal experience with that?
Absolutely.
Mm.
It's interesting because I never really thought about the term itself, right?
Mm.
I never engaged with anybody that spoke about it. And now I'm hearing it all the time now, because it's kind of like that red car effect. Right now you see all these red cars.
Got it. It's okay. Yes.
And so now
Got
it's
it.
like the world is surrounded with these people, and it's like, I wish somebody had told me. Um, but so here's how it started. I was married for 4 years, and it was just it. There was a lot of commonalities that attracted us to one another. We're from the same hometown. We kind of knew some of the same people. We went to the same playground when we were kids, and yet our paths never crossed.
Mm.
And so you think, as you sit back and you're looking for your soulmate, right? And I'm doing air quotes, and your listeners can't see the air quotes, but as you as you are looking for your soulmate, you look for these commonalities. And so that was what drew us to one another, was all of these things that we had in common. And so we get into the marriage, and year one, you go through, and it's always the stumbling blocks of year one, and people go, marriages don't really effective until like year 3 or year 4, after you've had a chance
They
to
don't
really,
count until the third year. Okay, good.
you've had a chance to really go, oh my gosh, just leave me alone, and he's okay with it, and you're okay with it, and then you guys find a common ground again, and so you go back and forth. But then it got to the point where it started to be manipulative.
Huh.
And it started to always be, you know, it's they have this ability to make you think that you're doing something wrong, or that everything that is happening in our environment is because of what you're doing. And so
Right. There's no responsibility at all for anything that's
exactly,
happening. Right. Okay.
exactly, right. And so it eliminates them from taking responsibility at work, right, at home, with friendships, because all of these three things started to evolve into a negative way. And I kept going, this is really weird that you can't keep a job. Well, it's always because of them. They didn't like him, or it was a female manager, or it was the job is not for one person. And so there was always these excuses. And then we would go out with my friends and it would be, well, I don't like your friends. And so every time it was time for us to go out, I would end up making an excuse and saying, no, we're not going to be able to come because of, this or that, whatever excuse I had for the day. And so then that's where the isolation came in. And then it was, well, your family shouldn't come here to visit. And when they do come to visit, then, they shouldn't stay here longer than, 2 or 3 days. And I'm like, well, my family happens to love me, and they come in from out of town. And so, I was always a family person. You knew this. But so then everything got to be such a battle. And then it started to be at work, because I've always been this individual that is just always had this entrepreneurial spirit. My family's always had 2 or 3 businesses. And so this is how I grew up, not to always be that person that is, the frontline person. Right. So I'm a VP and I'm flying the country and I'm doing all of these things and I'm volunteering. And, that's just that's my DNA. Right. That's just my DNA. And it was always, where you're trying to be, this and you're trying to be that. And it just got to be where everything that I did, he would always put it down and just always put it down. And, I got to the point where I was just exhausted. I was exhausted. I was mentally exhausted because he would continuously say, oh, you just don't remember saying this, or you don't remember doing this. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I didn't do that. I know I didn't do that. Oh, you just don't remember. And so now this is what they call gaslighting.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha.
It's always them trying to make you think like you're losing your mind. And it's like, I know I didn't do that. And so now you start to second and third guess yourself. And then it got to be really bad where I was getting these horrible, horrible text messages every morning just to ruin my day on my way into work. And I would literally sit in my car before I would go into the job. And I would just sit there and I would listen to TED Talks, or I would listen to something on YouTube to motivate me, to get me back into a good mental state. And it just so happens I was listening to, I'll never forget, Angela Duckworth, and she was talking about grit and her study of grit. And right after that, there was a video that said, how do you know you're living with a narcissist? And I was sitting in the car and I'm like, well, I got 10 or 15 minutes before I need to go in.
Oh
and so I said, what is this thing? So I listened to it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly, there's that lack of empathy, lack of responsibility, the ability to want to put yourself into a position where you have accomplishments that you have not fulfilled, but just to make yourself more superior than others. And I'm listening to this checklist and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm living with. And so once I realized that, I'm going, okay. Now, the thing about narcissism is that they will never get tested. So you can never prove to them that they are truly a narcissist because they don't go and get diagnosed, because there's nothing wrong with them. It's you.
This would make sense. This would make sense, right?
Right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And so just
those are the same ones that don't want to do any personal development, right?
Exactly. Right? It's never me. It's never me. It's those other people. It's the they. It's the they. And who are they? Right? But then it just got progressively worse. And we were coming to the end and, we decided, okay, we're just not, this is not happening anymore. It was 4 years in and we were in a divorce, and then it got really, really ugly. And, we had an argument. The police were called. He told them that I pushed him. I was then arrested. I had to go to jail behind this. I ended up losing my job behind this because he called them to tell them. Then it just got really, really bad. And so I ended up losing my house that we were in. Luckily, I had my first home that I purchased. And luckily, I didn't put his name on it. So
yeah, when I'm listening to this, this is really about boundaries, right? He isolated you. Yeah, it really, I'm glad you kept your boundaries. Well, you're tough as nails. I can tell that. I can tell that anyway, you know.
I'll tell people and I share with them, and that's just the short version of the story.
Sure.
This could be like a lifetime story. But this is what really brought me to the point of going, wait a second, you're so much bigger than this. You're so much more powerful than this. And I happened to be at my friend's house because that's where I ended up going to, was a friend of mine, to live with her, with my two dogs and my mother.
Oh,
And
bless you.
and I'm thumbing through this magazine. And I was always one of these individuals that love motivational quotes. I write them down if they mean anything to me. I turn back to them and I look them over periodically. And I came across this quote, and it was by Layla Delilah. And it said, when she remembered who she was, the game changed.
All right. That's a great quote.
Right? I
That's a
mean, we're
great quote.
talking about something that is like slap you in the face. That just throws cold water on you, put you in a cold shower. All of those things were embodied in that quote, because I looked at myself in the mirror and I got up, I looked in the mirror and I said, I dare you. I dare you to do better. And then I said, I dare you to rise and shine. And at that exact moment, that's how I named my company. And that's how my company got its name, Rise and Shine.
Fantastic.
And and so it took me probably another year later to change my symbol, because my symbol is now a lotus flower. And the lotus flower, if your listeners aren't aware of it, a lotus flower is a flower that's embedded in mud, surrounded by water, and yet it blossoms. And it's like a magical flower, because nobody knows how does that even happen.
Right.
Survivor, right? It's a survivor.
Yes.
And so I know that the point of your show is about healing. And I know that there are a lot of lotus flowers out there that are right now embedded in the mud, surrounded by water, and they're looking for the sunshine. And I say to them, remember who you are, because when you do, the game changes. And those petals open up to the sun, and you realize that that champion is still in you.
Yeah, there she is.
Right? It didn't go anywhere, right? You just pushed it to the side because you were trying to do something else, but it never left you.
Right.
You have the ability to recall it. You have the ability to resuscitate it, right? Get that defibrillator out.
Yes, stat clear, right? We got it. Totally. I love this. I love this opening to the sun, connecting to your source, your life source energy, right? And really remembering this is the same thing that we hear so often, put your life mask on first, open to the source, to the sun, and don't worry if that individual over there, I think as women, well, not only as women, but as women, I do know we are caretakers and we are people pleasers, right? And we sometimes even derive our own sense of value by how well we're taking care of others, right? So that gets to be a very complicated turn of energies, right? And women, I think, forget to open to the sun, like the beautiful lotus Sheryl Mays is reminding us to do. I think that is so important. Gosh.
I one of the things that I know, and I teach this now also. So I work with businesses, but I also work with individuals on empowerment. And one of the first things that I do with anybody, because I don't care what you're trying to accomplish, if you are not speaking words of positivity to yourself, if you are not appreciating who you are, if you are not showing yourself love, then none of that's going to happen, because you have to continuously push yourself. We don't always have that bandwagon, right? That fan club. We don't always have those followers that are like, hey, you got this, you're going to do fantastic, right? Most of us have those other people, right, that are like, who do you think you are? right?
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to be able to do this. And so when we hear it so often, we start to repeat it. And then it dives into our subconscious. And so we go to sleep. And this is what we're saying to ourselves: I'm not enough. I'm an imposter. I'm never going to be able to do this. And so we repeat those things. So the words that you speak to yourself, and I'm a huge believer of affirmations and visualizations,
Mm.
because it gives us power. It makes you stand up. When you're talking about being unapologetically bold, when you recite words of positivity, you stand differently. You start to speak differently. You no longer allow yourself to be labeled or put into a box or to silence. You're the one that's like, you know what? Hey, my name is Sheryl. This is who I am. Love me or not.
Absolutely. Well, when the intention and the physiology and everything is pointed in the same direction, when the intention is the same and authentic through and through, like that is pure power,
Mhm.
right? When you get in that state. Sheryl,
Exactly.
you are a force of nature. It's such a pleasure to have you on. I'm really a huge fan. I love your passion. I love I love the language that you use to describe things. It's awesome. If our listeners are just as infatuated with you as myself, how can they reach out and get a little piece of you, Sheryl?
I am on social media. So, but you can go to my website at www.rising the word and shining.com. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, Sheryl Mays, Instagram, which is Rise and Shine CF.
Awesome. I love, love, love it. I'm going to go make sure that we are all hooked up on all those platforms as well, Sheryl. Do you have any words of wisdom before we sign off today? Any little super tip you want to give to any woman out there or any individual out there who is suffering and maybe not feeling that they are ready to rise up yet? What do you think is going to be their first step?
So I was reading a book a little while ago, and it's called As a Man Thinketh by James
Mm.
Allen. And one of the things that he said in there, and it literally gives you reason to pause, is that individuals want their circumstances to change, but they're unwilling to improve themselves. Our circumstances can't change until we look at some self awareness and we start to ask ourselves questions. And that's where it starts, just to ask yourselves questions, and it could be the simplest question is, you know, what is it that I'm doing today that's going to allow me to accomplish my goal? If the answer to that is, well, gosh, I didn't really do anything to accomplish my goal, then that's a starting point.
Right. You better
Right.
get on it tomorrow for sure.
Right. Because the universe rewards action, right? It takes action. And sometimes you don't even have to have the full path. Sometimes we wait to have everything laid out. I got to know steps 1 through 15, which means that oftentimes it leads us to procrastinate, or we quit, or we surrender. Just lean
Mm.
into it. Take the first step and let the universe fulfill your wishes and your dreams. And then things will happen. Because once you take that first step, you're going to take the second one. And then you're going to see that you're going to get closer and closer. You'll start seeing results. And it's about sustainability
Mm.
and sustaining those habits that allow you to continue to move forward.
Fantastic. Sheryl, you're such a gem. Really, really have enjoyed spending a few moments with you here today. And I'm sure that our audience has gotten a couple pearls of wisdom. Don't forget about silencing the chatter monsters, everybody, because that one is definitely on the top of my reading list. Okay, Sheryl, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. To your listeners, thank you guys. This is such a powerful time. This is our 5th season. This is the yet season. So
The
whatever it
yet
is
season.
you
Oh,
want to
really quickly,
become.
can you tell us? I'm running out of time, but can you tell us what you mean by the yet season? I love this terminology that you're using.
Absolutely. It's just the definition of the word yet, right? It's like things are still happening. You still have the ability to become. It hasn't ended. Nothing is finalized.
I
So
love
keep
that.
moving forward and operate in your yet season.
I love that. It's not over till it's over, everybody.
There you
Okay. Sheryl, you're a hoot. We're going to have you come back on again. Okay, everybody, my time is running out, so I'm going to cut it out there. Thanks for dropping in today, and please come back to Healing Body, Mind, and Soul. I'm your host, Ariel Asher. Until next time, happy healing.